we're here with Christina and Olle to hear from them about their extensive research into how automated summaries might help newsrooms increase the discoverability and the accessibility of the very best journalism they produce. The research connecting users to quality journalism with AI-powered summaries is already online, and you can study it and read it, and it's going to take you the full weekend to read it because there's a lot of very good materials at journalismai.info in the Collab page, so you will find everything there, and I strongly encourage you to have a look and browse through because there's a lot of insights for your newsrooms about the use of summaries. So we will restart the presentation from Christina's slides. So, Christina, on to you.
Yeah, perfect. That seems to be working. Olle, do you want to start?
Yeah, so thank you everybody again for the delay. So we will give you a presentation about AI summaries today. And we will present a couple of results from our study, which is online now at the AI Collab website. My name is Olle Zachrison, and I'm head of digital news development at the Swedish Radio.
And my name is Christina Elmer. I'm deputy head of editorial development at Der Spiegel in Hamburg, and we called our journalism AI project Best in Brief, as it is all around AI-driven summaries and how they might be a way of connecting the audience with the best of our quality journalism.
So in this presentation today, we will briefly talk you through our challenge. We will give you a definition of what are AI summaries. We will talk you through 2 different tests that we have made of summarization tools and also integrating summaries at Der Spiegel website. We will give you a couple of potential use cases. We will enlighten you with some needs for further explorations. We will do some team reflections and also give you a vision of a future workflow in an AI-powered newsroom.
So this is the team that we have had the joy of working with during the last 6 months. It is a part of the Journalism AI program, and our team members are coming from Switzerland, India, Sweden, and Germany. Uli and Cecile are part of the AI and Automation Lab at BR Broadcasting in Bavaria. Pratyush is an editor and fact-checking expert at Jagran New Media, and Didier leads the data analytics team of the TX Group. So we had a few diverse and different expertises and perspectives on board, different languages and different time zones within our team, which made our work quite challenging, of course, but also really insightful when it comes to the diverse challenges and tasks that AI-driven solutions have to tackle within media companies.
So our challenge could be summed up in 3 questions, actually. And the first question is, can AI summaries help users discover and get key elements of the very best journalism that we produce in this massive flood of output that meets them on different platforms? The second one is, how effective are available AI summarization tools at capturing the essence of a journalistic evergreen? And the third question being, can automated summaries attract more people to premium pieces? Thus, integrating summaries on news articles enrich those pieces?
So plenty to discuss later on. Before we jump into our concrete testings and findings, we'd like to mention a few words about AI summaries in general. We use this term for the process of condensing a text into a comprehensive synopsis by using pre-trained data models and machine learning. There are 2 different approaches for producing these summaries. The extractive one, on the one hand, that works with key phrases within the text, and the abstractive one that generates new sentences out of the presumed meaning of the text. Also, there are diverse output formats to be used in different contexts, both newsroom-facing and user-facing. We focused on these 5 different output formats that are displayed here on the right: summaries with and without bullet points, speakable ones, and also unusual formats like quotes and questions. We had 2 main research questions around this. The main one looks at AI-driven tools and their ability to generate useful summary formats, and the second one is about the integration. Now, Olle will start presenting you our findings of the first test.
At least I will try to. So central to our study has been a couple of very practical tests. And I will first take you through the tests that we have made of a couple of summarization tools to check out their performance, especially in relation to these journalistic evergreens. So this was our method in brief. In the first step, we manually picked out a couple of well-crafted premium pieces from our 5 different media companies, the kind of evergreens that are more timeless with more background or context than the average quick news article. We then wrote manual summaries for all of these stories to use as a benchmark. After that, we ran the text through the 2 AI summarization tools that we had at our disposal. The first one being a commercially available tool, Agolo, and the second was a prototype built by BR. And here it's important to stress that it would have been ideal, of course, to try even more tools, but we had a very limited time scope. And we also have to mention that these tools were not specifically trained on the kind of content that we actually ran through them. So we made it really, really hard for the AI. Anyway, after that, we rated the quality of the output in 4 dimensions. How well they capture the facts, the grammaticality, the journalistic text quality, and the usability as a teaser. And finally, we analyzed the results we got from the different media companies. So the first tool is Agolo, and this is a machine-trained model developed by a US startup. We were kindly introduced to Agolo by one of our team coaches, Lisa Gibbs from AP, who is also using Agolo on scale in her news agency. And as you can see here to the right, Agolo can provide you with summaries in different formats, which is very handy. So from an English text, you can get a short audio summary, you can get bullet points, and you can get key quotes extracted. And it is actually an extractive model that picks out key sentences in whole. And it also has some special features like co-referencing, which means that it replaces pronouns with proper names to make the summaries more understandable. And the second tool is this prototype built by our colleagues at the BR AI and Automation Lab. It's also an extractive tool, and you can choose to get summaries in 2 to 15 sentences. A nice feature is that this tool automatically identifies tags in the text. And when you select these tags, the model will make sure to include more about them in the final summary. So now, actually, what I want to do is a little demo for you. As I said, we didn't make life easy for these summarization tools. For example, we actually tried inserting automated transcription and translation also into the process. And such explorations are, of course, specifically interesting for me as I represent an audio company. And I'm going to show you this demo of when I ran a transcribed audio story through the Agolo tool. And this is a good example as it also demonstrates how the tool works in general, and you get an idea of how we conducted our tests. Yeah, and now you can't hear the audio, of course. So can we, Christina, do you think we can pause there? Can
Yes.
you pause and share your screen again, and also tick that little box with include audio?
Yes, I will do that again. I hope
Yeah.
that the audio does not react like it did before.
Yeah.
But let's see if
Sorry
we
about
can.
this. It's when you
See.
summarize an audio story, it's good to hear the audio. That's
So now you can see it again. Right. So let's start again.
At 12 o'clock today, Denmark closed its borders to travellers from Sweden in order to prevent further spread of the coronavirus.
So that was the original piece from the Swedish Radio English section. I took that audio story, I ran it through the transcription tool that we have at the Swedish Radio. And I got the text out like this. So it was a very short story, so the text was very brief, but I took that text, I went over to the Agola tool and pasted that text in the tool, went back to fetch the headline, because the headline is very important to get also in the Agola tool, and then I pressed summarize. So what you can see, I got some bullet points out of it, and we also got a short speakable summary, an audio summary, which we will hear now.
Denmark closes borders as a result of coronavirus outbreak. At 12 o'clock today, Denmark closed its borders to travelers from Sweden in order to prevent further spread of the coronavirus. Swedish citizens planning to fly from Copenhagen's airport, Kastrup, will not be allowed in, and trains will not be allowed to cross the bridge between the two countries.
So as you can see, getting a concise summary from an audio piece is also entirely possible. And it actually worked also for audio stories in Swedish that were automatically transcribed, but on a very, very important condition, that those stories were short and hard news stories. And this brings me actually to some of the findings of our tests in general.
At 12 o'clock today, Denmark
we go
closed
to the
its
next
borders
one.
to travelers from Sweden in order to...
If you jump to the next slide. Yeah, here are some of the findings. So you could sum up some of the tool testing with saying that short news in English works. The tools that we used are trained on this kind of content, especially the Agola tool then, of course. The tools struggled with the long and creative. So as I said, we made it very hard for the tools. And those evergreens that we tested are often written in a more creative style. So this made it very hard for the tools to summarize them. The start of the summary is absolutely crucial. If the start is very factual and very newsy, then you get a good result out of it. Speakable summaries were, generally speaking, much better than the bullet points. They were strong on grammar, as these both of these tools are extractive tools that will kind of pick out whole sentences. As the grammar is often good in those sentences, the grammatical structure of the summaries is often very good as well. And generally, you could say that they didn't really work as teasers, because teasers need more human editorial creativity that the tools could not provide us with.
Okay, let's switch over to the second experiment. In this, we focused on the implementation of different summary formats into new articles and how this might be enhancing the user's experience. So this is user-facing, and it quite well connects with the idea of structured journalism, where you break down editorial formats into pieces and put them back together in different formations using metadata, thus being able to serve many different use cases with one set of inputs. In our case, we think about our summaries mainly as relevant backgrounds that might enrich new coverage and might provide an overview in a specific field. So to have a concise experimental setup, we handpicked our evergreens and composed summary formats also manually to then integrate those in new articles. And this last step, of course, has been automated with the help of Adobe Target, which is part of our DMP at Spiegel. To observe the short summaries under real conditions, we narrowed down the experiment further. We chose the topic field of climate change, as it is constantly covered by the newsroom, with quite popular pieces that are highly relevant and also spread over several departments like science, politics, and economics. And within this field, we chose 5 evergreens and generated 4 snippets each. Together with a control option with no summary integration, we got 21 variants and included them in every new article in a specific way at a predefined position further down in the article. Yeah, these are the results. I thought they were really interesting, but not that exciting, I have to admit, because we reached more than 800,000 views with our articles within 20 days. but only very few of them were used as teasers to the linked evergreens. Our winners in this little contests were a quote and a question, and this one that you can read above about weather extremes in Germany and their impact on seasons is the one that was best in this context, in this regard. When you compare the quality metrics of the articles with and without summaries, the snippets seem to have no measurable effect at all. So all those metrics were more or less constant. So we didn't see this shift in the general article usage or users' experience. To sum up our findings from this integration test, we were quite excited to see unusual formats such as quotes and questions performing quite well as teasers to background articles, and think this should or could definitely be followed up. But we also see general challenges when it comes to overall positive effects of snippets on the user's experience. So more work is needed here, including on the specific formats to generate a measurable positive impact, as we see it from today. Olle, you're muted.
So giving you some of the conclusions from the both tests, we could say that customizing your summarization model to your use case and to your data and specific contents is absolutely key. Machine summaries certainly need human editors, especially for long and creative formats. So our strong recommendation to you is that if you're interested in trying AI summaries in your newsroom, start with the standard news pieces. AI summaries combined with transcription and translation is entirely possible, but it's very, very hard, of course, to get the whole chain working. And we think that questions and quotes are the most interesting formats to explore further as teasers. So we will try a little game now, and we certainly hope that the technical gods are with us now. As I said, we did manual summaries of all the articles and text that we ran through the summarization tools. And in front of you here on the screen are two versions. And now our question to you is bot or not. Please read carefully through these two summaries that you have in front of you. And you will then decide in the Slido which one was written by the AI. Is it number one that was a summary that was written by the AI, or is it number two? And if you take a minute to just read it, then you can head over to slido.com, entering the code 8102. We hope that this works now. So we can see if we can have a little vote which one was written by the AI. So if you go to the next slide, Christina.
The Slido integration is not in this presentation anymore because of the technical issues that we had. So maybe you can just give us the results. I hope you see them. Well,
yeah, I can see people voting now on my little screen here.
Perfect.
Yeah, and there are quite a few people who have already voted here. Actually, people are saying that 62% think that the bot, the AI wrote, did the first summary, longer one. So, but I can actually reveal to you all that the AI did the second summary, the shorter one, and maybe a key to understanding this was the last sentence in the first summary. Experts see the criticism as serious and a sign of the bad relations between the countries. That sentence was actually a more abstract summary that I myself did of the whole text. It wasn't just one sentence that was pulled out. And in the second summary, all the sentences were extracted in the exact sense from the original article. So let's jump to the next one now, Christina. Now we will briefly talk you through a couple of potential use cases that we have come across during this exploration. You can use AI summarization for so many different things, like tailoring your newsfeed, easing workflows, creating new products, and you can also combine it with other tools. And if we go into some of the concrete applications that we have come across on the next slide here, here are some of the audience-facing use cases that we just wanted to share with you. For example, in 2018, Bloomberg started with a feature on their app called the Bulletin, which is actually automated summaries of important news pieces that are done by an AI summary for a snackable format on the mobile screen. AP is, of course, as I said, using AI summaries on scale, like they are extracting audio summaries from their news articles and displaying them on speakable smart speakers. Toutiao in China, the very, very popular app, which actually means today's headlines, is also using summarization techniques to kind of extract the most important news in a condensed form. And finally, a very positive and fun thing about this collab has been that our team member Pratush, he was inspired by our explorations into also launching and they are about to launch an AI summarization product at Jagran New Media in India, where you will get a short version of the evergreen or the most important news article of the day. You will get it in a couple of sentences summarized by AI, but also in audio form. So looking more on those kind of internal use cases that you might find in the newsroom, we know that using AI summaries could be a way of enhancing SEO and metadata. Some companies are looking into using it to make the archives and maybe immense sets of research easier to scan. And of course, me coming from a traditional broadcaster, here we could maybe use it also for summarizing audio stories in bullet points. This is a thing we already do, but we do it completely manually today.
Yeah, thank you, Olle. So I think as the use cases have made clear, there's much space to be explored in this field and fishes to be found. We consider especially the following examination fields to be promising as next steps for collaborations or for newsrooms and also for the industry as a whole. First of all, the identification of evergreens. We are sure it is possible to use AI-driven tools for this, but every newsroom has its own quality criteria, and that should be used in this regard. So this might be a project to be conducted best in a single newsroom, like the Washington Post has done it before, not necessarily in networks. Secondly, creative formats. One big learning for us is that summarizing tools have to be trained on very specific formats. Standardized ones like short news pieces seem to work quite well, but how do we manage to include also more creative formats, for example, those with reportage elements or with listings? I think this would create completely new possibilities and open up the concept of summarization for a broader spectrum of journalistic production. And when it comes to summary formats, we see a huge potential in more playful and engaging summaries, especially when it comes to audiovisual contents. So they are, of course, another bigger topic to dive into, but a very promising one, especially for broadcasters or in regard to the distribution of contents to social networks. Taking one step back now, today we also learned a lot during this journalism AI collaboration and want to include these reflections here as well, because they give you hopefully an impression on where we stand and how such collaborative setups might help you as well to tackle such challenges. First of all, we'd like to stress that we see a huge demand for solutions around AI and journalism. As Didier says, this might allow us to increase engagement, which is an essential goal for media organizations all around the world these days. But to discuss ideas and challenges, you need a diverse platform with experienced people from different fields, an interdisciplinary team at best to identify solutions that fit for the special challenge that journalism definitely presents in this regard. So this is a really specific field that we should explore together.
Yeah, and talking about diversity, it has been very, very interesting and also fruitful to explore this together with people from different countries and different media types. And as Cecilia is stressing here, there is a great variation around the summary needs. And also, it's very challenging in some of the smaller languages, as so many of these kind of models are, of course, trained on the English language. So it's much more challenging for us that represent smaller languages.
And third, our work told us much about the intersection of tech and journalism, where such solutions would have to be implemented. At this intersection, as Olle makes clear in her quote here, you need ongoing communication to foster the needed cultural change. And of course, you won't succeed without the buy-in of the newsroom. However, we have one insight that helps to achieve this. When we discuss AI and journalism, we always end up at the core of journalistic work and quality, since we have to answer questions like, how do we define quality content? How can we redefine our workflows to implement new systems? And which parts of our work are really important to us as humans? So let's look at our future a little bit closer. We are convinced that AI-driven systems are already and will be implemented more and more into our workflows. So we think we should think about what that means and what it takes early on, at best now. We think that this will not mean a takeover by the AI robots. To put it simply, for journalism to resonate with humans, it cannot be done or should not be done without humans. AI systems can, of course, solve specific tasks, but they won't be able to do creative work, ask the right questions in interviews, or identify innovative product developments on their own. Also, whenever we need to resonate with our readers, which is a constant requirement in journalism now, we should use a system with more empathy. And this, of course, should and could be us as humans. So in the end, it will have to come down to a hybrid collaboration between human and artificial intelligence led by humans, as we see it. And we think that as journalists, we could all profit from that. We could include much larger sources in our investigations. We could enhance our fact-checking. Our workflows could be more effective. We could reach new audiences with more diverse formats and bring our archives to life by lifting and including these editorial gems into our new journalism. At this part, we just wanted to give you a little insight on the many possible ways and let you think about, maybe there are also pain points that you have in your daily life and that you would like to be solved with a technical system, maybe. So obviously, there is a need to go hybrid, as the different tasks, I think, quite clearly show. So how can we prepare for that today? First of all, we need a much higher level of algorithmic literacy in the newsroom to enable the collaboration with these tools. And this includes also the fine-tuning capabilities, since those models need feedback and further development continually along the way. Furthermore, we have to increase the workflow awareness in newsrooms to allow for these workflows to be divided up into parts that can be performed by different actors within these hybrid systems. And we need a clear strategy and KPIs to feed the AI-driven tools with. Otherwise, we run the risk of being pushed too far in a different direction. And if I may add one more small but very powerful advice, just be part of the next international AI network and collaborate across newsrooms. This is definitely a challenge that we can best solve together as newsrooms. Okay.
So thank you so much for watching. We're very sorry about the technical problems that we had. We hope, though, that this sparked your curiosity about AI summaries, and you're most welcome to contact us. And please go to the LSE website if you want to read our study.
Thank you so much to the both of you for the presentation. Don't worry at all about the technical issues. I think after we resumed, we offered a very, very interesting and interactive as well. Well done presentation to the people following us. There's a lot to talk about, of course, and there are already quite a few questions coming in, both from YouTube and Telegram. So I invite our audiences to keep sending in questions. We have time, so we're definitely going to go through as many as possible. As often as I do, I use the privilege of being the host to ask my own question at the beginning. And I was curious if you could tell us, to both of you, this one, if you could tell us a bit more about the beginning of this process. For example, why did you decide to actually focus on this topic? Was it related to some experiments you were doing already in your newsrooms? Or what was really the motivation for you to explore this specific topic among the many opportunities that AI might offer?
I can just start by answering a little bit that one of our approaches was structured journalism, that we wanted to see if kind of modular pieces of our content could be put together into maybe new products. And we also wanted to maybe explore if structured journalism was a way of kind of highlighting or giving more attention to the really premium content. So in a way, that's how the idea started, that we wanted to pick out snippets, like little modular parts of those real premium pieces, and see, can we stick them into another surface to make them more visible? So that was one of the approaches that we used. Christina?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would also add that it really brought us to so many new ideas to just think about what you could do with these summaries, like combining them with translation or with easier language or whatever. There are so many potential use cases, and we thought that we really need to get some grip on this topic, because there were some tools already in the industry, or there are some tools that are used, and some of them also in a good way and working quite well. But we thought, okay, there's no one solution for all, so we have to get a little bit more into this topic, really.
Thank you, both of you. I'm glad you mentioned languages, Christina, because there are a few questions, of course, specifically about that topic with such a global network, as we are so lucky to have. That's a recurring question during this festival. And it's actually two questions. I'll take them together. Dimitri on Telegram is asking specifically about Agolo, if the tool works only in English or if it works better in English than in other languages. While on YouTube, I see a question specific to Swedish and German language, like if you could tell us a bit more about the performance of summarization tools, the one you tried in your own languages.
I can start with the Agolo question. This is the version that we tested was entirely trained on English texts. But from the Agolo team, they say that they just need a data set to train it on another language. But this is now just trained on English, at least the version that we used.
So we had to translate our pieces beforehand. We also did this using AI tools, of course, because why not? So we, for example, used DeepL for the translation, and the tool developed by the BR AI and automation team. This is in German. So with our German texts and snippets, we could use just both tools in different ways and compare the results afterwards.
Thank you. Another question is from Samia on YouTube, and I think this refers to the BR tool specifically. If you have any more information to share about the size of the data set that was used to train the model. You could see the question also here. Samia is asking specifically, for example, how many summaries were used to train the model.
This is an interesting question. I don't know if you know it from now just by hand, just because I think if you read our study a little bit, we will describe this in more detail. And Olle and Cecile are, of course, also available to answer those questions, because, I don't know much about the training process beforehand, because it's an ongoing process there.
Yeah. Please reach out to us, Samia, after this, and we can get back to you with a better answer.
Well, Olle and Cecile are also giving the next festival presentation, so we can just ask them there, I guess, later today. But thank you. That's perfect. Still related to the training process, Lynn has a question on Telegram that I'm going to read. So she's asking if in summarizing the articles, you just input the body text, or the headlines was also part of the text that was included in the training.
You need both inputs, and in Golo, for example, there is also a specific field for the headline, so this can be really taken into account, for the summary, and so that the tool knows that it's a quite important part of the text, and the expectations towards this piece of the text is not that it is a sentence already that you can take out. So it is included, but in a special way.
Yeah, and in the Agolo tool, of course, the headline is very, very important, because it's actually the other sentences in the following text is actually ranked in relation to the headline. So there it's absolutely key to have the headline also.
That's a good point, Olle, because Lynn is actually also asking as part of the same question if like the model take cues and gives more weight to the words that are mentioned in the headline itself, yes. And if what kind of impact does it have in your experience in the summarization?
Yeah, I mean, it gives a lot of weight. At least the models, the Agolo model gives a lot of weight to the headline, and also it's much likelier to find a close connection to the headline in the start of the text. That's why the start of the text is so important. And I also think that when you do these kind of short summaries, speakable summaries, it's a very, very condensed form. Whereas when we took out the bullet points, it kind of extracted bullets from the whole body of the text, and then the kind of the logical connection between the bullet points got a bit muddled sometimes. And I think that so the start and the headlines was very crucial.
Mm-hmm. And the start especially is interesting, because this leads to some errors, or results that are not that well, because if you have a scenic entrance of your article, for example, like it is quite often the case in more creative formats or even background pieces that I, for example, tested with Spiegel content, then the tool is slightly misled towards these sentences and cannot really find out what is the key of the article. And this is also, of course, because of the training model, and because of the training with the AP articles, quite concise, short news pieces that have an important and really insightful first sentence in many cases. So this is really one problem that arises from using a tool that is not trained to your task for your task. Yeah.
Christina, I'm going to follow up specifically on the experiments that you run on Spiegel. Of course, you told us the summary about it. Now, if I use the word summary, sounds like a pun, but it wasn't intended that way. I guess I'm very curious if you could tell us a bit more about what did the newsroom think when you suggested to run these experiments? What was the hope or the hopes that you had? And was there any skepticism in general about the potential of including something that it was AI powered as part of the editorial process?
Not really, because the AI powered thing in this experiment was just the placement of the snippets within the articles, and since the position was really predefined, it was okay for everyone, and it was also a styling that makes clear from the beginning that this is not part of the content you see. But we had some discussions. So are people misled by this content if it doesn't really fit exactly on the topic? But overall, I have to say that it felt quite natural to include them, because they have been seen as useful for the articles, and meaningful, and an enhancement. So I hope that this would be really effectful, even in terms of other quality metrics of the article, like are the articles, for example, read in a more extensive way? Do people reach the end of the article in more cases, or is this shared differently? So, I mean, that we did not really see differences in this regard doesn't mean that there could not be any, because this is a specific experiment, and the position, for example, was quite low in the article. So you could also argue that people that reach this position are even anyways really engaged into the content. So yeah, you would have to conduct more experiments on that.
Perfect, thank you. Another question, scrolling through YouTube, so many questions. I have to make sure that I don't forget anything and catch them all. So Christoph is asking on YouTube, and I'm going to put it here so you see it too. I'm curious about your take on how viable it is to think about combining the summaries with any personalization element. Is it something you are even considering to try in the future?
I think first we would have to solve the first challenge here. But yes, definitely. I mean, when it comes to user segments, we have seen this great talk by Corey on, I think, Tuesday at this festival, talking about user segments and how they could be approached in different ways in their user journey with different offerings, but also, of course, it would be possible with different background information that they need. For example, when there are different stages of their knowledge within a certain field, or they are coming from different backgrounds, for example, like people from universities need different backgrounds, maybe compared to others. And yeah, I think this would be a really interesting approach.
One thing that I'm very interested in, and as I've shown today, is of course combining summaries with translation. So let's say, for example, you're an Arabic speaking visitor of the Swedish Radio website. Maybe you could have a personalized summary of the main Swedish headlines, but in Arabic, and that would be customized for you then. So that could, for example, be a way of also opening up kind of Swedish content to people that maybe don't master the Swedish language so well, because of course we know that there are hundreds of thousands of people living in Sweden now who maybe don't have Swedish as their first language. So these combinations, I think, are very interesting to explore.
Mm-hmm. And when we think of younger reader groups, for example, we always see their demand in getting an overview of what we have published about a specific topic, because they don't get, or they just get specific articles on our homepage, for example, but they would like to have an overview and see what's in there for me. Are there explanatory pieces and also comments and different formats, for example, and you could also use the summaries to just provide that. And even with personalization aspects for different reader groups, why not? Yeah.
I think both of those are great examples, if I may.
He's making a very interesting point at the moment, but we can't hear him.
I was just wondering if it's him or us.
This normally happened before sessions, first time that it happened during, sorry, but I'm back. So I was trying to explain that I think is a very important point, the one about the accessibility that you're making, right? Because often we focus more on the discoverability to make sure that our content gets in front of as many eyeballs as possible. But you do give some interesting examples exactly about how we can make the content more accessible, especially for segments of the population that might not be already that engaged with your brands.
Absolutely.
So this was more a comment than a question, of course. That was a privilege. Olle, please.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also to do with how much time you have. You know, I saw in a BBC News hack just last week a very interesting example of when you have a very, very long article, perhaps you can summarize it in just taking out key elements of that whole article and stacking it on top. So you will have a kind of 10-second version of a piece that could maybe take 10 12 minutes to browse through. So of course these kind of tools could be used in that way also, and that's why it would be also pretty interesting to kind of explore how you can extract not just text but also kind of multimedia elements from long articles.
Yeah. So this is more wishful thinking now, because we would all have to train specific models on these specific tasks, and this would take time. But yeah, I think it's, when you think about use cases, it's really clear that there are so many good ways to use this. Yeah, we should definitely go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you both. I'll take another one from Telegram, where Taguchi is asking if you encountered, I think you mentioned that you did, so you can tell us a bit more about it. You encountered examples where the summaries were actually misfactual, he's asking, like when they were not actually replicating correctly the actual truth and information that was said in the articles. And maybe if you could give us a couple of examples, maybe it's also a funny way to do that.
I think one example that I remember, but I can't really recall it in words, but it was about two sentences that really just don't fit together. And these two sentences were quite important inside of the article. So I think the extractive model really took good sentences, but on the other hand side, if you put them directly together and the AI does not do anything about that, it's factually wrong. So this is, I think, a really interesting point, because with a bullet point summary, for example, this would not be that kind of problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, we talked a little bit about another model, which is called an abstractive model of summarization tools. And in those cases, we know more that kind of the AI can start hallucinating and make up facts. So it becomes really, really completely factually wrong. This is a lower risk when it comes to these extractive tools, as they are pulling out exact sentences of the text. So it's more the kind of the coherence or the logical structure between the sentences that can muddle the logic a bit, and maybe, as Christina said, also become factually wrong. I, of course, discovered I had a lot of really weird things going on in my summaries because I was using automatic translation and transcription. So, of course, in texts with very complicated quotes, for example, you know, the summarization tools couldn't at all cope with the content of those quotes, and that made real factual errors also.
Thank you. Actually, thanks for mentioning the abstractive and extractive models, because that reminded me I was forgetting of a question that is specifically about that. So there's a question about the what journals depend on subject quality. Yeah, so what, if you could tell us a bit more about the difference between the two models and how that impact, again, what we were discussing right now about the fact and how they are summarized. The person asking is saying that usually journalists, in his experience, prefer the extractive summaries. So what is your experience in that regard?
Yeah, regarding the hallucination problems that Olle just mentioned, we would also prefer extractive models at first. But I mean, given that you could be working with an abstractive model that really gives you the sense of an article, especially with creative formats, this could really be an enhancement, because maybe there aren't those few top sentences within the text that give you the whole meaning of the article. So yeah, the difference, I think we have described that before. When you have an extractive model, you just or the model searches for the AI searches for different sentences that are really important for the meaning of the article, for example, in reference to the headline, and then just compose a summary out of these sentences. And it's, of course, given that those sentences have to be factually right within the article, this can't get wrong. But of course, within the combination, there lies a little bit of danger. Yeah, and the abstractive one just tries to find out what the article is about, just to say it in this abstractive way, and then just gives you back some kind of summary. And this is also largely depending on the training material that this model has seen before. And when it is, for example, news coverage about catastrophes and crime, this may be influencing the results. Our BR colleagues, maybe this is also interesting for the next session, they have also experimented a little bit with abstractive models and have seen really interesting things. Yeah.
I just think it's easier to get quicker, better results with an extractive model. And I also think that Sage Vons, who is the CEO of Agola, made an important point, because he said that with an extractive model, it's easier to keep very close to the tone and the style of the media company that you're summarizing text from. So for example, Agola, of course, they want to serve their customer AP, and if they use an extractive model, they become closer to the AP style than if they would use an abstractive model.
Great, thank you for the details. That's good. I think it's about time to wrap up. So I think I just want to ask you one last question more about the long-term thinking, which is more personal in a sense. Like, after this experience, what is your biggest hope about things that these kind of technologies might allow you to do as the technology itself keep developing over the next year or so?
Yeah, it's a big question. I think it's for me, it's like this. It's about starting a creative discussion in your own media company about the potential use cases, because this is a kind of you can enter the whole field of structured journalism in a pretty good way by starting to talk about the summaries. And this is I don't know so much about the future technological developments, but I think that it could be a development editorially if you start asking yourself what could be a concrete use case for our organization.
Yeah, I would second that. And of course, I mean, you have seen all those use cases that we have presented and suggested. I think these are really attractive for newsrooms, or some of them even. And this might also foster a change process that we need in the industry anyways. So we need this, for example, this algorithmic literacy when it comes to investigations, when it comes to understanding the system you are publishing in a little bit better, and for many different reasons. And I think these examples of great use cases that everyone really wants to have in their newsrooms, this really fosters you to deepen your understanding of these tools and of the technology behind it. And this will be helpful in so many regards. This is really what I like about this topic, because it really would help us in the end to reach some kind of future. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, digging up those kind of golden nuggets from the archives, those texts that we know that if we republish them or relink to them, that can provide real value for the audience. If AI summaries can be a help of resurfacing that content, that could be a really great thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to end it. Thank you both. If anyone is interested to know more about these specific topics, they can review the presentation from another Collab team yesterday that talked extensively about the archive and how we can use them better via AI. And of course, I totally recommend the case study from BBC News Labs when they talked at length about structured journalism and their own experiment in that space. So Olle, Christina, thank you so much for this presentation. I really encourage everyone to check out your study, which is available on the Collab page at journalismai.info. And I'm sure it's going to be shared widely, and it's already shared widely on social media and in our newsletter earlier this morning. So thanks again for the presentation. Really excited that we got the chance to present your study, and then look forward to see the development in the next year. So thank you both.
Thank you.